Hello and welcome to PTC 24 in Honolulu. Joining me now is Strahan McCarten, Senior Vice President for eStruxture Data Centers. And Strahan, wonderful conference. This is your first PTC.
It is.
Welcome to
Thank you. The weather here is considerabely better than my home in Toronto, so this, glad to be here.
And this is as windy as it gets. So usually it's a lot just sunnier and a lot more steady. How are you finding the conference so far? Like, what are the topics that really driving attention?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's probably two major ones, which is AI and the implications on capacity. So obviously there's an AI explosion, which is in the data center business leading to a lot more demand. But that leads to its own sort of challenges in trying to find additional capacity, where we're building out additional capacity, where we find additional power, that sort of thing. Those are sort of the big themes for me as a data center provider. So,
is that what you also witness within the markets you operate in?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we have 15 data centers across the country, 5 in Montreal, 5 in Toronto, 2 in Calgary, and 3 in Vancouver. And we're getting demands and requests from all sorts of customers. And initially, customers approach us and say, I want X amount of capacity. And if you don't have exactly what they're looking for, they can go look someplace else. And we're finding a lot of customers come back. There's so much demand, relatively little vacancy, and it's happening quite rapidly that customers are having to be a little bit more flexible with respect to exactly how many cabinet allocations, exactly what configuration, spread over how many data halls, et cetera, et cetera. So we're, as rapidly as possible, adding additional capacity. We've got additional space in our Calgary and Toronto facilities that we're adding right now. But in some cases, if a customer's wanted in a particular region where we don't have a new build that's just come online, we've got to be a bit more flexible.
Are you seeing time to markets being a bit delayed still by supply chain issues, or have we fixed that? There was a bit of a debate this morning where some people said yes, some people said no.
Yeah, no, it's certainly improved. It's not back to, in Canada at least, it's not back to where it was, but it's gotten quite a bit better. And I don't think COVID had any impact on the approval process for substations, additional capacity. If you're looking for 1 or 2 megawatts, that's one thing. But if you're looking for 100 megawatts, that kind of an application process takes quite a bit longer. And independent of any of the equipment, this is planning, it's zoning, it is rights of way and easements. That stuff hasn't gotten considerably faster. So when you're looking at 50 and 100 megawatt sites, that becomes, that hasn't particularly changed.
So as you start really planning for this AI boom, I mean, first have you figured it out?
Yeah.
Because no one else has. So have you figured it out? Well, what are the pain points with AI, and how are you now going to expand your operations to really address the demand?
Yeah, I mean, so pain point number one, obviously, with AI is just the amount of capacity they want, whether or not when we can add it, and in what particular region. And then the second one is on the cooling side. I mean, at this point for us, we have been cooling high density workloads for a very long time, whether that's with just air or water, chilled water doors, spot cooling, or even in some cases liquid cooling to the chip, which we do for a number of customers. But I think AI represents sort of a sea change in terms of how large those water chilled deployments will be. And certainly as an operator, we're ready, prepared, experienced in cooling environments with liquid. But the challenge is we don't know exactly, and we can't control what the customer's going to deploy. So I was approached the other day by a vendor who wanted to talk about immersion cooling. And immersion cooling is wonderful, but we as the operator don't control the equipment that the customer is bringing in. And if that equipment supports immersion cooling, wonderful. But if not, then we've got to go to a more direct to the chip kind of application. So that's another challenge that we experience.
In terms of facility design, I mean, there's been a lot of stories of operators, and including hyperscalers as well, going back a little bit to the drawing board to redesign the building itself. The architecture of the data center is changing on the back of it. Have you guys had to change your designs? Have you changed the strategy a little bit as well to address the new equipment?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, most of our the facilities that we have built right now actually both support in-room air handling equipment or CDUs, because it's a refrigerant directly into the room. And so that actually is less of an issue. On some of our older facilities, I'm not necessarily sure that we're going to do retrofitting. Where for us the design really comes in is the new 50 to 100 megawatt sites that we're planning. So we've got, like I said, a development going on right now in Vancouver. We have a development underway in Calgary. We are looking at additional developments in Calgary, Vancouver, and Montreal. All of those what we end up designing and building will be heavily influenced by the anchor tenants that we get in those facilities.
Okay. I was actually going to ask you about expansions. I was going to ask you about something else first, but let's talk about expansions.
Sure.
What is the timeline to bring all those properties online?
Yeah, so it depends on
how much is going to come online.
Yeah, so it depends on the region, but our goal in Calgary is to add a new site with 50 megawatts. Our goal in Toronto would be roughly the same. Calgary, I would think, would be in the 18-month region, whereas Toronto will be a little bit longer than that because we're a little bit further behind on site selection. And Montreal would be similar timing to Toronto.
Okay, so 2025.
Yep.
It's going to be a big
that's right.
year.
Yeah, that's right.
And then when it comes to existing facilities, what's the projects? What's the development, the expansion?
Yeah, so we've got a number of facilities with additional capacity. It's just in some cases they're already spoken for. So in Calgary, we've got expansions underway. We do have available capacity in Calgary. The Vancouver facility that we're bringing online early next year will have available capacity. We have a Montreal facility with a considerable amount of available capacity, but most of that capacity is already spoken for. So it sort of varies depending on the region.
Okay. And then any desire to get outside of Canada, to cross the border, across the ocean, go somewhere else?
Yeah, no, I think for us in 2024, our focus will be on remaining in Canada and continuing to expand in the markets that we have. We don't have any explicit strategy to expand, though sometimes these opportunities land themselves in your lap and you're forced to make a decision. But as of this moment, we're sticking with Canada.
Okay. And then, of course, you also oversee product. Is there anything that's coming to market on your side, on the product services side?
Yeah, so for us, product really constitutes both our co-location product, and so most of the work that we're doing on the colo product is in the liquid cooling applications. And on the networking side, we continue to be out in the market, trying to connect with as many carriers, partners. We're a carrier and cloud neutral provider. So we're here actually meeting with a number of different carriers and network as a service providers, but no specific announcements planned.
Okay. Well, this is the best place to meet people.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, quite.
That actually takes me to my next question, should be, so when we meet here again in 12 months' time for PTC 25, this is almost like an early business wish.
Yeah.
What's the one thing that you think is achievable, but we really need to get it right in the next 12 months?
As industry writ large? Yeah. That's a good question. I would say some consensus to a certain extent on what cooling technology will be the predominant one going forward for AI workloads. Like I said, single phase, dual phase, liquid to the chip, immersion cooling. I think our perspective is really on liquid to the chip as opposed to immersion. But I think a real consensus view for us, it's really, I've worked in the data center business for a long time. Right now is the time of the most technology change that I've seen in the 20 odd years in the colo business. So that to me would be a bit more clarity and focus on where our big customers are going.
Well, you just described what is basically the start of a new chapter for the industry.
Yeah.
Is the industry understanding it though? From what you hear, not just in colleges here in general, is the community actually understanding what's coming along? And are they working together?
Better by the day, certainly. I've met with customers and vendors here that have got a much better perspective than they did. I would also say that the talk about AI workloads really is limited to a relatively small number of clients. Our enterprise and wholesale customers are still deploying the traditional applications that they always have, with power densities varying from relatively small up to 30 kilowatts in a cabinet. AI is really pushing the forefront, but that doesn't apply to all customers. So there's still lots of normal, commercially available products and services on the market for your average enterprise or wholesale customer.
My last question will be, what question did I not ask you that I should have asked you?
Why anybody should choose Canada specifically, which is availability of power, affordable power, free cooling, and highly stable both economic and political climate. That's why we are so focused on the Canadian marketplace.
There's a lot of hydropower there.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Second in the world in terms of production of hydroelectric power, and overall very green footprint. Even outside of markets that don't have hydroelectric power, there's a lot of nuclear and renewables.
That's super interesting. I've had the pleasure of visiting the country several times. Seeing some days into there, and it's very fresh air.
Yes, depending on the time of year, it can be very brisk.
Quite nice.
Yeah.
But Strahan McCarten is Senior Vice President of eStruxture Data Centers. Thank you so much for talking to me.
Not at all.
As for your home, thank you for watching, and do check our website and social media for more timely news from the digital infrastructure sector worldwide. At the Tech Capital You Lead, we report. Bye for now.